My stepdaughter created a significant problem during our honeymoon, and later, her actions led to a major conflict that resulted in her leaving our home. Hi everyone, I'm facing a very challenging situation and could really use some advice. I apologize in advance for the length of this post. I'm a 45-year-old woman who recently married my boyfriend, Mark, who is 49. We've been together for 3 years. Mark has an 18-year-old daughter, Jessica, who has had difficulties accepting me from the beginning. Our relationship has only become more strained over time. Mark and I met at a local community center where we both volunteered. I was involved with an after-school tutoring program, and he was coaching a youth basketball team. We kept running into each other, and our conversations started to flow naturally. Mark's kindness and sense of humor drew me in. I remember the first time we talked in depth. He helped me with a heavy box of textbooks, and we ended up chatting for over an hour about his dedication to volunteering for his daughter's sake. It was touching and made me feel comfortable with him. After a few weeks of these chance meetings, he asked me out for coffee. Though I was hesitant at first due to a recent painful divorce, there was something about Mark that made me feel safe. Our first date at a local cafe went well, and we talked for hours about our jobs, volunteering, and shared interests. I had recently ended a long marriage. My ex-husband, Tom, and I had been college sweethearts. Our early years together were good, but as Tom focused more on his job, we grew apart. The situation worsened when Tom confessed to having an affair, leading to a difficult divorce process that left me devastated. It took me a long time to feel ready to date again, but Mark's patience and understanding helped me open up. Mark also had his share of heartache. His wife, Sarah, passed away from cancer when Jessica was 10. He had been raising Jessica on his own for 8 years, and their close bond was evident. Mark's dedication to his daughter was one of the qualities I admired about him. When Mark introduced me to Jessica, I tried to be respectful and friendly, understanding that I couldn't replace her mother. I brought a small gift, a book based on her interests, but she was polite yet distant. Her behavior remained cold and dismissive, and she often avoided spending time with me. Jessica's attitude became more challenging as our relationship progressed. She would make hurtful comments and exclude me from conversations. One painful incident was when I organized a surprise party for her 16th birthday, only for her to react with anger and lock herself in her room. Mark often made excuses for Jessica's behavior, attributing it to her adjustment period. However, things escalated when Mark proposed. Jessica reacted strongly, accusing me of trying to replace her mother and threatening to cut off communication if Mark married me. Despite her threats, Mark stood by me, and we proceeded with our plans. In the months leading up to our wedding, Jessica did everything she could to disrupt our relationship. She spread rumors, made false claims, and created a fake social media profile to send me hurtful messages. Mark and I sought family counseling, but Jessica refused to engage, leaving me heartbroken over the situation. On our wedding day, Jessica chose not to attend, which cast a shadow over what should have been a joyous occasion. Mark suggested we bring Jessica on our honeymoon to Morocco, hoping it might help us bond as a family. Though hesitant, I agreed, and we made arrangements for Jessica to stay in a separate room to maintain our privacy. I hoped that being in a new environment might encourage Jessica to connect with me. The flight to Morocco was tense, with Jessica barely acknowledging my presence and speaking only to Mark. Upon arrival at the hotel, she immediately retreated to her room, claiming she was tired. The first day of our trip to Morocco was relatively uneventful. We did some sightseeing together, but Jessica kept to herself. During dinner, she was polite but didn't engage in much conversation. I tried to stay optimistic, hoping things might improve. The next morning, Jessica knocked on our hotel room door, asking if we could get breakfast together since Mark was still asleep. I was surprised but agreed, hoping this was a sign she was starting to warm up to me. At the hotel restaurant, Jessica insisted on ordering for both of us, mentioning a local dessert she had heard about and wanted us to try. When the dessert arrived, it looked delicious, pastry with ice cream and chocolate chips. In my groggy state, I didn't think to ask about the ingredients. I took a big bite and soon felt my throat closing up. I realized with horror that the dessert likely contained peanut butter, to which I am severely allergic. I managed to call for help before collapsing. The next few hours were a blur as I was rushed to the ER and treated for anaphylactic shock. If not for the quick medical response, the situation could have been fatal. When I was stabilized, Mark was there, looking terrified. He informed me that Jessica had specifically requested the dessert with peanut butter, even though she knew about my allergy. The hotel staff was shocked, saying they would have avoided serving it had they known about my allergy. He informed me that I was deeply shaken, not just by the reaction but by the realization that Jessica might have deliberately tried to harm me. Mark was extremely upset and had a serious conversation with Jessica while I was being treated. He told her her actions were unacceptable and dangerous, and decided to send her home immediately. He also informed her that, going forward, he would only cover her college tuition, and she would have to support herself otherwise. I felt conflicted. Seeing Mark discipline his daughter was painful, but I was also relieved he was setting a firm boundary. The rest of our honeymoon was overshadowed by the incident. Although we visited the markets in Marrakesh and took a day trip to the Atlas Mountains, I couldn't shake the trauma of what had happened. I kept wondering if I had missed any signs or if there was more I could have done to improve my relationship with Jessica. Mark was supportive but also visibly distressed by the situation. Now that we're back home, Jessica is still living with us until college starts in the fall. The atmosphere in the house is tense, with Jessica barely acknowledging my presence. She hasn't apologized or shown any remorse for her actions. I'm worried about what she might do next, given her past behavior. Mark is trying his best to mediate, but he is torn between his concern for me and his desire to mend his relationship with Jessica. We're considering family therapy again, but I'm unsure if Jessica will agree to participate. I love Mark deeply and want our marriage to work, but I'm at a loss for how to handle the situation with Jessica. I'm seeking advice on whether there's hope for us to become a real family or if I'm setting myself up for disappointment. Any guidance would be greatly appreciated. Thank you all for your supportive comments and advice. Here's an update on the situation as significant developments have occurred over the past 2 weeks. Mark and I have been home for about 2 weeks, and things with Jessica haven't improved much. She continues to barely speak to me and acts as if I don't exist. Most concerning is her lack of remorse for what happened in Morocco. It seems her anger is now directed at me due to Mark's decision to limit her financial support, except for college tuition. The first few days after our return were extremely tense. Jessica isolated herself in her room and only emerged for meals, during which she ignored me and spoke only to Mark if necessary. I tried to give her space, hoping she might come around, but overheard her on the phone complaining to a friend about me, saying I'd ruined everything and that her dad had chosen me over her. It was painful to hear but also provided some insight into her feelings. Mark has tried multiple times to talk with Jessica, but she either shuts down or lashes out. During one heated argument, Jessica accused Mark of trying to erase her mother's memory and create a new family without her. Mark was deeply hurt by this accusation. We looked into family therapy again, but Jessica refused to participate, saying it was pointless since she'd be leaving for college soon. Mark and I have been attending couples counseling to address our feelings about the situation. While it's been helpful, I wish Jessica would join us. The tension in our home is unbearable, and I've started spending more time at work or out of the house to avoid the constant discomfort. I've also been struggling with anxiety since the incident in Morocco, double-checking ingredients obsessively and having panic attacks over potential allergens. Things came to a head yesterday. I overheard Jessica and Mark arguing in the living room. Jessica was shouting, accusing Mark of ruining her life by marrying me and calling me hurtful names. Mark was pleading with her to give me a chance to be part of their family. In a moment of heightened emotion, Jessica rushed towards me and shoved me hard. I lost my balance and fell down the stairs, hitting my head and losing consciousness. I woke up in the ER again, diagnosed with a concussion and some bruising, but thankfully no broken bones. The doctors wanted to keep me overnight for observation. Mark was by my side, looking devastated. He told me he'd called an ambulance immediately and, in the meantime, told Jessica to pack her things and leave. He said he could no longer have her in the house if she was going to be physically violent. I feel deeply saddened that it has come to this. Despite everything, I never wanted Jessica to be expelled from her home. I'm worried about how this will affect her relationship with Mark long term. At the same time, I'm relieved that I won't have to return to that unsafe environment. Mark and I have a lot to discuss about our future. I'm unsure where Jessica is staying now, possibly with her grandparents, and I don't know if Mark will try to reconcile with her again or if this is a more permanent separation. I'm feeling overwhelmed and uncertain about everything. The physical pain from the fall pales in comparison to the emotional distress. I keep replaying the incident and questioning what more I could have done. I wonder if leaving might make it easier for Mark and Jessica to repair their relationship, but I don't want to give up on our marriage. Any advice on how to move forward or salvage the situation with Jessica would be greatly appreciated. Thank you all for listening and offering your support during this challenging time. I'll update when I have more information on what happens next.